first off, Mohawk High School's Bobby Fadden went over a pretty significant milestone recently on a Wednesday night, I believe, against Hopewell. He went over 2,000 points, and right now he sits at 2,028 career points, good for 8th on the county's all-time scoring list. Pretty darn good.
I saw Bobby Fadden as an 8th grader. I was still coaching 9th grade basketball at Newcastle, and I knew then that this young man was special. And the fact that he has 2,000 points, it doesn't surprise me. And, he might be the best all-around athlete, not only in Lawrence County, but in Western Pennsylvania. He plays 5 sports. I mean, he's the quarterback on a football team. He's a great baseball player. I don't know what position he's playing now. He's a golfer who can break 40, consistently. And I think he also runs track. So I was reading something in the Post-Gazette. Mike White's column said maybe the best athlete in Western Pennsylvania all around. And I would certainly echo that. And I saw that 4 years ago, like I said, as an 8th grade basketball player. I didn't even know who he was, but after one quarter, I asked the scorekeeper, "What's that young man's name?" He said, "Bobby Fadden." I said, "He's special." And the guys that are really special, you can see it early. You could tell, and he's one of those guys.
How many games you play at the 8th grade level? 10 or 12, somewhere around there?
Oh, no. Well, no. I was coaching 9th grade basketball. We used to play somewhere between 20 and 25 games in a season. So, he was an 8th grader playing on the 9th grade team at the time. So, he was special. You could just tell.
All right, Larry, I'm going to ask you, being that now we're getting ready to start talking about playoffs in a couple of weeks, we're coming down the stretch. We're on the home stretch, so to speak, second half of section play. You're going to hear a lot of coaches say, quote unquote, battle tested. If I asked you, Larry, what is your definition of battle tested?
That when the pressure gets so high, you can't spit. You still have laser focus and you're mentally tough, and you can execute in the biggest moments of the game. There are ebbs and flows in every sport, in every game. And the mentally tough teams are able to overcome, a 10-point run in a basketball game or an early deficit and still maintain their focus and their mental toughness to continue to execute and play, at a high level. And that's what I believe battle tested is, and not everybody can do that, but championship teams can. We saw some of that last night watching that college football game. Those were 2 battle tested, mentally tough and laser focused teams. Believe me, there were ebbs and flows in that game that certainly could have changed the outcome, but both teams, when they needed to make the big plays, made the big plays. And I've been around long enough, Ronnie. I've coached basketball. I've coached baseball. It's those teams that can take that punch, maintain their focus, be mentally tough, even when there might be a bad call or an error or a missed assignment somewhere along the way, that can still keep it together, for 32 minutes in a basketball game and for 7 innings in a high school baseball game.
Okay, the reason I ask is I'm going to give you a series of scores. There's 9 of them here. And you tell me if this team is battle tested. These are all victories. 62-21, 72-37, 71-21, 71-30, 85-18, 88-10, 89-35, 82-10, 72-35. That's 9 of this team's 12 wins. Is this team battle tested?
Obviously not in those games. You know what I mean? Not in those games. you know, I used to say, even when I played, and I played college baseball, anybody can get 2 or 3 hits when the score's 10-0. I used to pride myself in being able to get 2 or 3 hits when we win the game 2-1. Okay. It's easy to execute, it's easy to score, it's easy to defend in those kind of games. But it gets a little tougher when you are tested. You know what I mean? When you're down by 6 points at the start of the fourth quarter, and you need to get stops, and you need to execute, and you need to show that when the game, again, I like to say, when the pressure gets so high, you can spit, you can still stay laser focused and execute at the highest level.
Any guess on who the team in question is?
Those sound like scores that Neshannock women's teams just beat people. And you're talking about one of the best, if not the best, women's coach in Western Pennsylvania. But there's going to come a time, when those scores aren't going to be like that. And last year it was against Aliquippa, wasn't it? I think they split.
Yeah.
They were 1-1, and then they had to play them again in the playoffs and
championship.
Yeah, I don't know. I as a coach, you like blowouts. You makes it easy on you. But if you really want to see what your team has and how they respond, and if they can execute in the biggest moments, you need some tough games along the way. You just do. You need some tough games along the way.
Yeah, from my perspective, from a distance, when you start getting box scores submitted and you see those type of scores, you think maybe one of two things, if not both things, that the Neshannock girls probably deserve a franchise in the WNBA because they're that damn good. They're the uncrowned WPIO and state champs because, they're just routing everybody, and maybe even a third one. They play a lot of horse bleep type teams. I mean, they're just dominating everybody. Is there any good competition out there?
We were talking about this off the air. My daughters played girls basketball. I don't remember blowouts like this. There might be 1 or 2 during the course of the season, but it seemed like all of the teams were very close talent-wise, and the games were closer, and they were evenly matched. Very few games. You might have 1 or 2 games that had scores like that. And Neshannock was great back then. But when they played the Riverside girls and they played the Kelly girls, they were dogfights.
Yeah.
Sometimes we won, sometimes we lost, but they were 1 or 2 possession games, almost all of them. And it was the same with Mohawk. And it was the same back then with Beaver Falls was really good. And New Brighton had some good teams back then. Laurel was always tough, especially on their home court. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know why you have this inequality in not only the women's game, but also in the men's game. I mean, look at the Newcastle scores. We're just blowing people out. I think there have been 2 games this year that have been under 10 points. And I know we're good, but, as I said, I was around the first 7 games. I'm watching some of these teams and saying, wow, they're not very good. So yeah. I don't know, Ronnie. I don't know why the inequality. I don't. But again, sooner or later, you're going to face somebody who's going to be equally as talented. And when push comes to shove, you need to know if your team – you need to know who can execute in the biggest moments, who's going to be able to perform in the biggest moments. And you only learn that, by using your words, being battle tested.
Yeah, another team that I had written down and I deleted it from the list because I thought it'd be a little extraneous is the Mohawk boys. They have about 6 or 8 games where they're just railroading teams by 30, 40 points. And you just sit there and wonder, are they the uncrowned state champs or are they just playing hot garbage literally every night?
I think Mohawk, I believe, might be the #1 ranked team in the Post-Gazette. I think they might be.
Yeah.
And they're very good.
Yeah.
You know, they got a 2,000-point scorer, and the Rona boys is just about as good as the Fadden boy. But again, you didn't see those kind of games, and you know, in Newcastle when we were state champs in 2014. I mean, we didn't have blowouts like that every night. We didn't. You know, when we played Beaver Falls, those were dog fights. When we played Hampton, those were dog fights.
Yep.
You know, they're you know, even like, I don't know, going to Butler and winning on their court was never easy. But yeah, you see that inequality in those blowout games way more often now than you used to see them. That's for sure.
Yep. And that leads us into our final topic of seeing blowouts a lot more than you used to, is the shot clock. It's coming, and a lot of people were, woo, you know, celebrating the shot clock. Have you changed your perspective? Because I have not.
No, it's unnecessary at the high school game. It's unnecessary.
Yep.
Why you would want a shot clock is beyond me. You already have all of these blowouts and mismatches. This is just going to add to it. And truth be told, you know, one of the things that Coach Belundo, you know, was preaching to our team early in the year was patience. You know, don't make one pass and throw up a three-pointer. You know, very few teams in the half-court set will make 4 or 5 passes. It's, you know, and there's a statistic out there that says that with every pass you make in the half-court set, your shooting percentage goes up. And it's hard to play defense for 30 seconds without breaking down in a half-court set. So I think a shot clock is unnecessary. It's not like the 4 corners of Dean Smith, which brought about the shot clock at the collegiate game. I mean, most teams come down and make 1 or 2 passes and the shot goes up. You know, I'd say the average possession in the half-court set of a high school game is 15 seconds or less.
I know why they're waiting. I think it's either next year or the following year that they're putting it in. They're waiting because, you know, they're giving schools an equal amount of time or a good enough amount of time to get the shot clocks and that sort of thing, and make sure they work, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But there is one question that I have, and I don't know if you have the answer to it or would be able to venture a guess. Let's say you have a team that's winning 65-8 at halftime. All right, is there any way that, you know, you've heard of the mercy rule where it's a running clock? Well, it's obviously going to be a running clock in 65-8. Would they shut the shot clock off and just say no shot clock? There's no reason. So if the team with 65 wants to stand at half court and say we don't want to run it up, I don't know. Has there been talk about that? Because otherwise, 65-8, guess what? I can tell you, it's going to be about 99-8.
They're not going to shut the shot clock off. I can tell you that. But look, a lot of times, Ronnie, and again, I've coached hoops for 20 years, maybe longer. You know, I could tell in the first 3 or 4 minutes of the game if this is going to be a blowout and this is going to be a mismatch. I could tell. And at Newcastle, you know, we defend 94 feet. We press from the opening tip. But if 3 minutes into the game, it was obvious to Larry Kelly that this was going to be a mismatch, I did not press anymore. I pulled the press off. We played half-court defense. We worked on our half-court fundamentals. You know, a lot of the times, these scores are like they are because the score is 22-2 in the first quarter, and you come out in the second quarter, and the coach who has a 20-point lead is still pressing. I don't think that's appropriate at the high school level. That's just me. I may be wrong. There'll be people who disagree with that. But listen, I've watched enough basketball to know if it's going to be in the first 3 minutes, first 4 minutes of a high school game, if it's going to be a blowout, if there's a mismatch in the amount of talent that's out there. So some of these scores are because the coaches don't know when to pull it back.
It's the same with the boys and the girls, although it's worse with the girls. And I have a couple of documented totals with the girls. There is one team that's averaging 13 points a game. That is the lowest amount of points among WPIL or City League teams. That's for sheer. They're averaging 13 points a game, all of 13 points a game. New Brighton is the second lowest. They're averaging 15 points a game. And in one game recently, might have been last week or 2 weeks ago, Riverside defeated New Brighton 81-3. And now you tell me what a shot clock is going to look like, because I have told people that you have high school basketball teams, doesn't matter if they're boys, doesn't matter if they're girls, they look like they're 5-year-olds playing against 18-year-olds. They don't belong on the court. They look like coordination skipped more than 5 generations. And there's going to be a lot of kids quit, and the scores are going to get way worse. And there are probably people watching this that are saying, no, it's not. No, it's not. Well, I tell you what, then don't let me coach, because I would be intense to the point where I want my team to possibly shut you out. You know, if you're going to be that inept at basketball and you don't belong on the court, well, hey, their blood is on your hands because you wanted the shot clock.
How much worse could it be than 81-3 if a shot clock was out there?
Right.
I mean, if you only scored 3 points, you probably can't get the ball beyond half court. And again, I mean, what's Riverside doing? Honest. You know, you should have your JV team in there midway through the second period. And maybe they did. You know, again, I never took solace in beating a team by 50, 60 points. And I had some teams at Newcastle. I could have beaten teams by 100 if I wanted to. But, you know, what do you want to embarrass the other school for? What do you want to do that? You know, again, in the first 4 minutes of the game, it became obvious if this was going to be a blowout. The first thing I did was pull off the press. And the next thing I did was make sure that those guys who practice every day, and I never cut anybody. So I might have 15, 16, 17 guys on a team. I made sure players 13 through 17 got significant playing time in games like that.
Right. Now, I mentioned, like, I just threw a score out recently, 65-8. Let's say 65-8. That's your halftime score. And you said they're not going to shut the shot clock off. And you mentioned about running up the score or not running up the score. So what do? Do you just, when your team's on offense, you tell them, hey, stand at half court with the ball under your left hand?
No, you don't do that. But you play your JV players. And you work on your offensive execution. You know, you don't cherry pick. You know, you get a rebound, you walk it up the court and work on your offensive execution. You know, that's what you do. You know, you don't press them. You know, you lay back on defense. Maybe you don't play man-to-man because the team is just can't dribble the ball. They play zone defense. You know, that's what you do. There's a way to manage that. And again, this is high school basketball. There's a certain etiquette that should be followed, in my view, in those games. That's just me. I may be wrong. I might be an old guy, and maybe I'm out of touch with reality. But I don't take solace in beating anybody 80-10, and I quite frankly don't want to see my team do it. I don't. That's embarrassing the other team. You know, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen.
You know what 81-3 is, right? You know what the 3 points is a result of, do you not?
I don't. What was it?
It's probably, I don't know this for sure, but it's got to be a referee saying, I got to call something to get somebody at the foul line and just pray to God that player makes a foul shot. It's probably the winning coach saying the same thing. Oh boy, I don't want to be on the other end of shutting somebody out. You know, heaven forbid. You know, I don't know why it's such a huge deal in basketball. Football, there's plenty of shutouts. Soccer, plenty of shutouts. Hockey, plenty of shutouts. Wrestling, there could be shutouts. You name the sport, shutouts are okay. Basketball, boy, burned at the stake if that happens.
What do you want to do? Start shutting high school basketball teams out?
Okay, why not?
Because it's the etiquette. It's just, it's inappropriate. It shouldn't be done. It shouldn't be done.
Yes.
It should not be done. What do you want to do it for? Why?
Because you can. I mean, it's
no, just me. We differ on this. There's a certain etiquette. I don't want to embarrass the other team. I don't want to do that. And if you're playing zone defense and you're not pressuring the ball, chances are the other team's going to score a few buckets, even if they're not really, really any good.
Right.
But if you're playing full court man-to-man and stealing it every time they attempt to make a pass or dribble the ball up the court and shooting an uncontested layup, yeah, you're going to have those kind of scores.
Now, what we were talking about off air, where I mentioned that, there's going to be 100% of the population disagree with this, and that's fine. It's still my belief, and this is the way I want it. This is what I would do. But if going into the first year of shot clock, if I'm an AD or a coach and my school averaged 10 points a game or less, I am shutting down the program and saying we're going to be a club team or we're canceling the program, because if we can't function and score 10 points with the freedom of having 8 minutes to find some semblance of a shot, what's it going to look like with being told hurry, 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 hurry? Now I'm canceling the program, maybe going club, intramural, whatever you want to call it, until we get things right.
Well, that might make sense, but you better make sure you got 5 votes on the school board or you're getting your behind fired if you're the principal or if you're the coach and that's your recommendation. It's the politics behind school boards of one person walking up there and complaining and saying, my son or daughter's a really good player. What do you mean they can't play high school basketball? That could be enough to get you fired. So it's a delicate situation, my friend.
Yep, it is. I think we both agree that we dread the shot clock coming.
It's unnecessary. It is unnecessary, in my view. I'd like to count the number of times that a team holds the ball for 30 or 35 seconds before taking a shot. I'm here to tell you, in coaching at Newcastle for 16 years and before that at other schools, I never see it.
Right.
That might actually bring a smile to my face if we made 4 or 5 passes and made the other team play defense for 20, 25 seconds. It just doesn't happen in the high school game that I've been watching for 20 years.
Yeah, too many people say that, well, that's the way of the game, and kids need prepared for the next level. How many kids go, Newcastle boys basketball, 14-0. How many kids on the Newcastle boys basketball team will play at some level collegiately? Doesn't have to be Division I at Duke. I mean, we're talking, could be at Teal, could be at IUP, Edinburgh, any level. How many are going to go on to play college basketball?
Nationally, only 7% of all high school athletes play at the next level. Only 7% of all high school athletes play at the next level. Now, this Newcastle team may have a few guys playing at the next level. But, if you look back historically, we might for every year, we might have had 1 or 2 play at the next level.
Yep.
And the only Division I player that I can think of since I've been there is Sean Anderson.
So it's like you said, it's unnecessary. You know what? If you want the shot clock so bad, put it in AAU, because everybody at AAU is going on to play some form of college basketball.
Just ask their mother and dad.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Larry, any
brother.
high school basketball thoughts that you have before we close up shop?
No, it's going to get interesting. I don't know who's going to beat the Red Hurricane. They're pretty darn good. And it looks like Mohawk's pretty good and the Shannon girls are pretty good. So could be a pretty good year for Lawrence County basketball.
Yep, we got some uncrowned WPIO and state champs. The way some of the scores are looking and how the kids are performing, and it's only going to get better as the playoffs are, what, 2.5 weeks away, somewhere around there.
We're in the second half of the season already.
Yeah,
So
that's right. Once you close up shop with the Super Bowl, you're talking first round of the WPIO playoffs.
yeah, absolutely.
Larry, good seeing you again. Thank you for joining us, and we thank everybody out there for watching us.
All right, Ronnie, thanks.
All right.
Shannon has Jaden Nogue. Jaden is our athlete of the week. She had quite a week. She started off with a 20-point win and an 82-10 section win over Shenango. Obviously, talk about that game first.
Well, that game was pretty fun for all of us. We had a slow start, but we really brought it together, I think, around halftime.
Then he had 21 points and a 72-35 non-section win over Central Valley. Talk a little bit about that game. It was another 20 points.
Central Valley was definitely, I think, one of the better teams we played in our past couple games, so that was kind of difficult to begin with. But.
And then you helped win in the Ron Galbraith Classic against Grove City. Supplied 8 points there. Talk about that game.
Grove City was difficult for all of us. We definitely had a slow start that game. It was close for a while, but we pulled away.
We all know there's an advantage to being the home team, to playing at home. And at LGKG, we have been your home team for over 90 years.
We're more than just a law firm. We're your friends, your neighbors, an advocate when life takes an unexpected turn.
We're not just lawyers that practice law. We live in this community, just like you.
When you need us most, we're at our best.